we are reading Lilamrita. It's the chapter Unlimited Opportunity, Limited Time. Chapter 29. So it starts in Montreal. And now I don't know if we're still there. And it's the volume 1 of the Lilamrita. It was inevitable that Prabhupada leave New Vrindavan. Letters from London, Los Angeles, and San Francisco compelled him to travel. On the day of his departure, the New Vrindavan devotees teased him, saying he couldn't go. Kirtananda went so far to, we read that last time, so far as to say that he would block the way on the road, but Prabhupada corrected him. You cannot do that to the spiritual master. Prabhupada had been hearing regularly from his 6 disciples in London. Having little money and living as separate couples in different parts of the city, they found their greatest inspiration in Prabhupada's letter. They would repeatedly read his instruction and dream of when he would one day visit them in London. Although in San Francisco, Krishna consciousness had been fun for the 3 couples, in England it was becoming more and more difficult. The devotees, being foreigners, were not allowed to earn a salary, and except for a few contacts, they knew no one. Although unable to live together, they were trying to maintain their moral and Krishna consciousness. Yamuna. I had to move to a Jamaican ghetto, the top floor of one of the buildings. It was awful. Day after day, I would sit and listen to a tape of Prabhupada singing. It was a beautiful tape he had just done in Los Angeles, and I would pray to him, please come, please come. Mukunda, letters. That's what kept us alive. Prabhupada would write and say, I am coming. 2 or 3 times he wrote to say, I am coming by March. And we would write back and say we wanted to get a place first. We really felt it wouldn't be right for him to come unless we had a place first. He wrote a letter to my wife. I was planning to come by March, but your husband is not allowing me. What can I do? The devotees in London had not seen Prabhupada in 4 months, and still there were no dates set for his visit. Although they sometimes became discouraged and thought of going back to America, they persevered. Prabhupada had promised he would come when they got a temple, and that promise helped them remember that they were personally serving him. They felt that he was doing the work and they were his assistants. His absence was only external. By his instruction, whether written, spoken, or remembered in the heart, he was always with them. He was constantly directing them. While trying our various shem to popularize Krishna consciousness in London, Shyamasundar arranged for a program to which he invited many of London's prominent citizens. About 100 people responded to Shyamasundar formal invitation. 1 member of parliament, a few government officials, but mostly young people. The devotees served a feast and showed a film of Srila Prabhupada walking by Stowe Lake in Golden Gate Park. Prabhupada had sent a tape recording specifically for the event, and the devotees highlighted it as the event's special attraction, even though they hadn't had time to hear it in advance. Guru Das started the tape, and suddenly there was Prabhupada's voice. Ladies and gentlemen, please accept my greeting in the happy year of 1969 and blessings of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for your kindly participating in this happy meeting of Krishna consciousness. Although Prabhupada had recorded the tape in the quiet of his room in Los Angeles, the devotees were astonished to feel Prabhupada's direct presence, preaching Krishna consciousness to the English. Lord Chaitanya informed us that the absolute supreme personality of Godhead can descend in transcendental sound vibration, and thus, when we chant Hare Krishna mantra offenselessly, we immediately contact Krishna and his eternal energy. Thus, we become immediately purified from all the dirty things of our heart. The guest sat listening politely as Prabhupada described the soul's travail of transmigrating from body to body and the path of the soul's liberation through chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna consciousness was transcendentally colorful and full of transcendental pleasure. Chanting could be done anywhere, on the street, in the park, or at home. Prabhupada concluded his talk. But to assemble and sit together, we require a place for congregation. Therefore, a temple of Krishna consciousness movement is required to be established in various centers in the world, irrespectively of particular country, culture, philosophy, and religion. Krishna consciousness is so universal and perfect that it can appeal to everyone, irrespective of his position. Therefore, I fervently appeal to you, all present in this meeting, to extend your cooperation for successful execution of this great movement. Thanking you once more. There was a pause, and then Prabhupada began playing the harmonium and singing Hare Krishna. Afterward, he again spoke. My disciples in London have very eagerly asked me to visit there, and I am also very anxious to see you all. So as soon as there is opportunity, I shall go with my Sankirtan party, who are now engaged in Los Angeles. And that will be a great pleasure for you all to meet together. That is all. Only a few weeks after this meeting, the group received their first important publicity. A photo of the 6 devotees and little Saraswati appeared with an article by the famous columnist articles in the Sunday Time. Gurudas was quoted as saying, Hare Krishna is a chant which sets God dancing on your tongue. Try chanting Queen Elizabeth and see the difference. It's bold to say this in London. The article described the missionary group from America as very gentle people, a bit unworldly, but not at all indigenous. Certainly, their renunciation of illicit sex and intoxication, the article commented, them you might think, but they look very well on it. And what's likely to earn them a public in their chanting? Within a few days, the same article appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle, but with a new headline, Krishna chants startle London. Prabhupada was pleased when he saw the headline. Indeed, his Grihastha disciple had succeeded where his sannyasi godbrother had failed. Although several of Prabhupada's scholarly godbrother had lectured around London over the last 35 years, only one person, an elderly English lady named Elizabeth Bottle, had shown interest. Yamuna had written Prabhupada to find out if they should visit Mrs. Bottle. She had received the name Vinod Vani Dasi, and Prabhupada had replied, the history of this Vani Dasi is that she is an old lady and has a house and has hung a sign Gaudiya Mat. But that is all. If they like, Prabhupada had said, they could pay her a courtesy call and see if she would let them use her place for kirtan. One of the men had gone to see her at her home, several hours out of the city, but from behind her closed door she had refused to meet with him unless he brought an introductory letter from the Gaudiya Math in New Delhi. Vinodavani Dasi was the fruit of 35 years of sannyasi preaching in England, whereas in 4 months Prabhupada's young American missionary were startling London. After a month of living scattered through the city, the devotees met a landlord who allowed them to stay together rent-free in a vacant warehouse at Covent Garden. The devotees improvised a temporary temple and soon recruited their first 3 British devotees. The newcomers at once took to the full Krishna consciousness regiment, including the dhoti and shaved head, and loved it. So powerful, Prabhupada's potency. The devotees, thrilled to see their group expanding and Prabhupada's potency working, decided to phone Prabhupada from their landlord's office. The phone was a conference phone and Prabhupada's voice came over the little loudspeaker on the desk. The devotees sat around the desk, listening tensely. Prabhupada, Mukunda said, we have some new brahmacharis here. Oh, are they cooking chapatis? Prabhupada asked from across the ocean. The devotees laughed uncontrollably, then hushed to hear more. No, said Mukunda, but they will be now. The devotees each told Prabhupada how they missed him, and he said he missed them too, and would come as soon as they could get a place. After allowing the devotees 3 months in the warehouse at Covent Garden, the landlord announced that he needed to use the space and the devotees would have to move. The couple moved to 3 separate locations and again their strong group's spirit dissipated. Prabhupada began sending 2 or 3 letters a week to the scattered couple, praising them for their sincere determination. The devotees would gather regularly, if only to show one another their last letter. Prabhupada wrote to Mukunda on his desire to preach Krishna consciousness in the West, specifically London. So it's Prabhupada writing. So far as I am concerned, I always wish only to expedite my mission of life to spread Krishna consciousness in the west part of the world. I am still firmly convinced that if I can establish this movement through the help of all the boys and girls who have now joined with me, then it will be a great achievement. I am old man, and there I have already been warning. But before I leave this body, I wish to see some of you very strong in Krishna consciousness understanding. I am very glad and proud also that you 6 boys and girls, although you have not been able to establish a nice center in London, still you have done your best. And the news has reached far away in India that my disciples are doing very nice work in Krishna consciousness. So that is my pride. I have received a letter from my god brother informing me that it has been advised in India that in Vietnam also somebody is spreading Hare Krishna movement. So there is no need to be disappointed. You go on with your work as best as Krishna gives you the opportunity, and there is no cause of your anxiety. Everything is going smoothly. But since you are now spreaded, the strength of your activities appears to be a little disturbed. Now you try to assemble together in the same spirit as you were doing. And in that case, temple or no temple, your movement will go on progressively. We are not much concerned about the temple because temple worship is not primary factor in this age. Primary factor is Sankirtan, but we want but sometimes we want a center where people may gather and see, so a temple is required secondarily. So try your best immediately to live together. I am very much eager to see that you are again living together. For Srila Prabhupada's disciple, his instruction that they preach in London was much more binding than any other obligation. He was in their heart and they thought of him constantly. In carrying out his order and trying to please him, they were constrained not by force or law, but by love. To please the spiritual master is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and for Prabhupada's sincere disciple, to please him seems the end in itself. Los Angeles, June 23, 1969. After leaving New Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada visited his center in Los Angeles, where he installed deities of Radha and Krishna. Although, as he had told his disciples in London, the primary factor was Sankirtan, deity worship was also necessary. In his writing, Prabhupada had discussed the need for deity worship, and he had gradually introduced higher and higher standard of deity worship in each of his ISKCON centers. Los Angeles, having become the model ISKCON center, was the natural place for him to introduce a more opulent and demanding standard for worshipping Radha and Krishna. While more than 100 devotees and guests sat in the spacious hall, Prabhupada bathed and dressed the little form of Radha and Krishna, then placed them on the altar. He was inviting Radha and Krishna to descend to give his disciples the opportunity to serve them. He was offering his disciple Radha and Krishna with faith that his disciples would not neglect them. If the devotees somehow lost their enthusiasm, Prabhupada explained in his lecture, then the worship would become like idol worship. If there is no life, then it is an idol worship. Where there is life, feeling, then you think, where is Krishna? Where is his? Here is Krishna. Oh, I have to serve him. I have to dress him. I have to serve Radharani. She's here. Oh, I just have to do it very nicely and as far as possible decorate her to the best capacity. If you think like this, then you are Krishna conscious. But if you think that it is a brass-made doll or idol, then Krishna will reciprocate with you accordingly. If you think that this is a brass-made idol, then it will remain brass-made idol to you forever. But if you elevate yourself to a higher platform of Krishna consciousness, then Krishna, this very Krishna will talk with you. This Krishna will talk with you. So nice. Huh?
Nice.
Krishna. It's inspiring for New Mayapur to get more enthusiastic to serve the deities and to get back to Prabhupada's standard established in Los Angeles. Now we have to meditate, bringing back 4 o'clock arti and putting deities to sleep after lunch. With each visit to each center, Prabhupada gave the devotees more service, deepening their commitment to Krishna. All the various services were actually the spiritual master's responsibility, he said, and when a disciple cleaned the temple or performed any service, he did so as the spiritual master's assistant. And any job done improperly was the spiritual master's anxiety. If the devotees whimsically changed the deity worship or neglect the temple, then Prabhupada, more than any disciple, would feel distress. Whenever Prabhupada saw a disciple eager to take one more of the anxiety of preaching Krishna consciousness, he would assign the devotee greater responsibility. Anxiety for serving Krishna, Prabhupada said, was the greatest satisfaction. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur had stated, the trouble I encounter in your devotional service, I will consider the greatest happiness. Satisfaction for the devotees, Prabhupada explained, lay in pleasing the previous spiritual masters, and that was best accomplished by preaching to the fallen soul. To the degree that the devotees carried out the order, they would satisfy their spiritual master and subsequently feel satisfaction themselves. Prabhupada gave the example of Krishna and the gopis. When the gopis pleased Krishna in the rasa dance, then Krishna smiled, and when the gopis saw Krishna smiled, their happiness and beauty increased 1,000,000 times. When Krishna saw the newly increased beauty of the gopi, he became more pleased, and thus the happiness and beauty of the gopis increased even more. This loving competition increased on and on unlimitedly. Even in dealing between spiritual master and disciple, a sense of loving competition prevailed, each wanting to serve the other, neither seeking service for himself. Prabhupada was increasing the duty and responsibility of each of his center, and since disciples were coming forward to accept those responsibilities, thus everyone was feeling satisfaction. This was pure devotional service, to be free from all material desire, and to serve Krishna as directed by the spiritual master and the scriptures. When Prabhupada said that his disciple would become happy by serving Krishna, he spoke from his own deep realization of that ecstasy. Whenever he installed a deity in one of the temples, his ecstasy was greater than that of any of his disciples. At the Rath Yatra festival in Golden Gate Park, or any public preaching function, he was the most enlivened. He was more than any of his disciples, wanted the public to come and chant. He, more than any of his disciples, wanted the public to come and chant and dance in the temple and see the deities of Krishna. And when they did, he was most pleased. And if a disciple fell away, Prabhupada was the most displeased. Nor was Prabhupada aloof from the details of temple management, the cost of things, how the devotees were being received in public, how each disciple was advancing. Although his disciples saw him as the most exalted Vaishnava and intimate associate of Lord Krishna, they knew he was always available to guide them in their service. He was their leader, but he was with them. He was far above them, but he remained close to them. Only rarely did he leave them behind, as at the Los Angeles deity installation, when he began to cry, speaking directly to Krishna. Krishna, I am most rotten and fallen, but I have brought these things for you. Please take it. Except for such a rare moment, Prabhupada's disciples saw him preaching and serving along with them. San Francisco, July 25, 1969. Anyone wants to share some comments? The day before the Rath Yatra festival, Prabhupada arrived at the San Francisco airport, where a crowd of 50 chanting devotees greeted him. Reporters stepped forward with what to them was an important, relevant question. Swami, what is your opinion on the recent manned US moon landing? Shall I flatter you or tell you the truth? Prabhupada asked. The truth, they said. It is a waste of time because it does not benefit you if you cannot live there. The time could have been better spent in Krishna consciousness. We must go beyond this universe to the spiritual sky, which is eternal, beyond birth, death, old age, and disease. The San Francisco Chronicle printed a picture and story, Ecstasy in Concourse B. On the day of the Rath Yatra parade, 100 devotees and a crowd of 1,000 gathered on Highgate Street before the toll cart. The deities of Jagannath, Subhadra and Baladev from their elevated platform within the cart smiled down upon the crowd. A group of devotee musicians settled themselves within the cart, made last-minute checks of their loudspeaker system and began kirtan. In the center of the cart, just beneath the deity platform, a red upholstered Vyasasan awaited Prabhupada's arrival. As Prabhupada's car approached, he could hear the cries of the devotees, and he stepped from the car. And as he stepped from the car, he saw them all bow down in obeisances. Folding his hand and smiling, he acknowledged his enthusiastic disciples, and he looked around with pleasure at the large crowd that had already gathered. Turning towards the cart, he beheld the deities on their throne, the same deity who had inaugurated Rath Yatra in America 2 years before. They were beautifully dressed and garlanded, and multicolor pennants and thick garlands of carnation decorated their cart. Rath Yatra was becoming more wonderful each year. Prabhupada bowed down before Jagannath, Subhadra and Baladev, and his disciples all bowed with him. As Prabhupada took his seat on the cart, the kirtan began again, and the cart, pulled with 2 long ropes by dozens of men and women, slowly began to move forward. Buckets of burning frankincense poured aromatic cloud from the deity's platform above Prabhupada's head, as slowly the cart moved along the road to the park. How many people are behind us? Prabhupada asked, turning to Tamal Krishna. The rode beside him on the cart and had been leading who rode beside him on the cart and had been leading the kirtan. Tamal Krishna climbed back and surveyed the crowd as far as he could see. 5,000. Sing Jai Jagannath, Prabhupada said, and Tamal Krishna then chanted the chant from Hare Krishna to Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. Throughout the parade, Prabhupada sat serenely watching, his right hand in his bead bag. The large crowd consisted mostly of young hippies, but also included businessmen dressed in suits and ties, elderly persons with their grandchildren and families, and few stray dogs, a mixed Sunday crowd. Suddenly, devotees in front began shouting, "Stop the cart! Stop the cart!" A head to low arch of a park bridge spanned the roadway. The devotees managed to stop the 35-foot-high cart just before it reached the bridge. Although the parade appeared to have reached an unforeseen impasse, the chanting continued unabated. The previous year, the procession had taken the same route with a smaller cart, and even then Shyamasundar had to climb up and saw off the spire. This year, however, Naranarayan had divided a collapsible dome with a crank to lower the canopy and superstructure. When Prabhupada had heard of this plan, he had asked, "Are you sure you want to depend on mechanical means? It could be disaster." Now the time to lower the canopy had come, and the crank wouldn't work. With the cart stopped before the bridge, the chanter gathered in greater number, facing Prabhupada and Lord Jagannath under the bridge. At least 1,000 voices sang together, creating an incredible echo. Then Prabhupada stood, raised his arm to the crowd, and began dancing. Bhavananda. Everyone went wild. The sound was so uproarious. You were defend under that bridge. Prabhupada was dancing, jumping on the cart. Narayana, he was dancing, and as he danced, his feet crushed the flowers. His garland broke and flour began cascading everywhere as he danced up and down. He was limping very deliberately, leaping, almost like slow motion. Tamal Krishna. Prabhupada was jumping up and down, and the people went crazy seeing him in complete ecstasy. He kept jumping and slowly turned around until he was face to face with Lord Jagannath. Prabhupada sat down and still the car didn't go, and the people were roaring. What do they want? Prabhupada asked Tamal Krishna. I think they want to see you dance again, Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna replied. Do you think so? Yes. He then got up and started dancing again. The white wool cap pushed to the back of his head, his arm extended, with the right hand still clutching the japa beads bag, his right forefinger extended, and long robe flowing. The ecstatic chanting and dancing continued. After about 15 minutes, Narayana finally got the crank to work, and down came the canopy. Again the cart moved forward under the bridge and on through the park. The crowd had grown now to 10,000. This was much bigger than any Krishna conscious festival ever held before. Bhavananda. Many of these people who attend Ratha-yatra were intoxicated. We were not intoxicated, of course, but we were higher than they. That we could understand. Everyone was smiling, everyone was laughing, everyone was in ecstasy, everyone was dancing, everyone was chanting, and we were doing it more than anyone. We were doing more chanting, more laughing, more smiling, and feeling more freedom. We were free to have a shaved head, free to wear a dhoti, free to blow a conch shell, free to spin around in the street and jump up. Even if you were a hippie, you couldn't be more far out than the Ratha cart of Jagannath, because no one looked more far out than him. The hippies had come dressed up in outfit with big feather in their hair and everything, but they were dime compared to Jagannath. The parade route ended at an oceanside dance hall, the family dog auditorium, where the devotees had prepared 10,000 feast plates of prasadam, fruit salad, apple chutney, halava, and watermelon slice. Although the cart had stopped, the chanting continued as Prabhupada led the crowd inside the auditorium to a temporary stage and altar the devotees had erected among the bizarre trapping of the dance hall. A giant silk screen of Lord Chaitanya covered the whole. Tibetan mandala and picture of Lord Vishnu and Sri Bhaktivedanta Saraswati were on the stage. The Jagannath deities now looked down from their high platform above Srila Prabhupada's seat, and a garlanded statue of Lord Krishna stood on a marble pillar. Prabhupada began speaking, and the crowd quieted. He quoted a song by Narottam Das Thakur, "My dear Lord Chaitanya, please be merciful upon me. I do not find anyone as merciful as you." Drawing the audience attention to the large silk screen of Lord Chaitanya, Prabhupada described the Lord's merciful distribution of the holy name of God. Lord Chaitanya, he said, was teaching the same things Lord Krishna had taught in Bhagavad Gita. "My dear son, do not suffer in this abominable condition of material existence. Come back to me. Come back home. Enjoy eternal blissful life, a life of knowledge." Prabhupada explained the simplicity of Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya appeared 500 years ago to establish the direct principle of Bhagavad Gita. He showed that even if you do not understand the process of religion, then simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The results are practical. For example, when we were chanting Hare Krishna, all the members who are assembled here were joining in. But now, when I am talking about philosophy, some are leaving. It is very practical, you see. The Hare Krishna mantra is so enchanting that anyone in any condition can take part. And if he continues to chant, gradually he will develop his dormant love of God. It is very simple. We are requesting everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra and take prasadam. When you are tired of chanting, the prasadam is ready. You can immediately take prasad. And if you dance, then all bodily exercise is Krishnaized, and all the attempt of yoga process are attained by simple process. So chant, dance, take prasad. Even if you do not at first hear this philosophy, it will act, and you will be elevated to the highest platform of perfection. Stop here. Oh God. I don't know. It's so amazing how.
C'est un peu ce qu'on fait avec les woofers.
Ouais.
Parce qu'ils ne comprennent rien à la philosophie ou ça ne les intéresse pas. Mais ils entendent un peu le kirtan, ils prennent du prashad, ils ont une certaine forme d'appréciation, ils voient un peu les motifs. C'est un peu le même genre de prédication chez nous, quoi. Donc il dit, là, Prabhupada dit que petit à petit ça va agir et ça fait que les gens vont se diriger vers la perfection petit à petit.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada, he really wanted to include everyone, to find a place for everyone. And so the process is, everyone can catch a part of the process. So important to try to...
It seems a program where it requires a lot of arrangement, it costs some money also, but in the long run time it will give fruit, and the fruit Krishna gives or don't give, it's up to him. But we do the job. We give the facility, and like a gardener, he gives the facility for the seeds to be planted. He water, but some seed won't grow and some will grow. Depends on Krishna only.
Yes, Prabhupada's mood is always to give. This is the preaching mood, to give, and everything he does is to include people, to offer them opportunity to do some devotional service, to offer them opportunity to chant, to take prasad. Yeah, he was saying that all this temple arrangement is to give people opportunity to be with devotees, so the mood is always to give, not for our own comfort or to make arrangements for us to be comfortable, but to be able to share Krishna consciousness with others. This is the heart of all the temples, all the community, all the preaching centers. Other comments? We're so fortunate, huh? Prabhupada came and organized these movements for all of us. It's so sweet to read about Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki.
Hey.
Bye.